Growing your business can mean big-time logistical questions like, how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then drivers who are part of Uber's courier network pick them up from your store and deliver them to your customer's doorstep. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com. I am here with Avi Goren. Avi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, so tell us a little bit about Marqii. Let's start with that.
Yeah, Marqii, we simplify your digital operations. So when you think about multi-unit, multi-concept, handling menu data across publisher networks, handling hour updates, photos, reviews, all of that is a incredibly manual, difficult, high-intensity process that we will automate, simplify, and kind of let you get back to doing the more important things of running a hospitality group.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you more about that, but I heard from a source that your background is a little bit different.
Oh, boy.
A source that shall remain anonymous, that you have an interesting background. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so from South America, born and raised, born in Brazil, raised in Georgia, found my way to New York, where I fell in love with our local pizzeria on Long Island, De Coco's. So top 10 pizzeria in New York, which means it's probably top 20 in the world, and just did everything I could at that restaurant, from making the dough to cashier to eventually grow my hair, and ended up being a delivery driver, where that's where the real money's at.
That's true. Yeah. Didn't you have a side job somewhere in there, though?
I mean, I may have made sandwiches and sold them at high school along the way. Mm-hmm. We were taking orders. I make a mean turkey club.
Yeah.
The key is smoke your own turkey, get a deli slicer. Sky's the limit.
So how'd that lead to Marqii then?
I always knew I wanted to own my own business. I know that's a crazy thing. Like, people have dreams and all the things. For me, it was business. I knew I wanted to do something in this world. And I kind of zigged and zagged until I really started finding this industry. Hospitality is just, it's where you feel at home. It's where I feel at home. I love it here. These are my people. And so the deeper I got into this world, whether it was making my own sandwiches and getting that instant gratification of handing someone the best lunch they're going to have that week, or being the delivery driver for your Super Bowl pizza party, right? All of that brought me so much joy that when I found myself a couple years later working at Yelp, and this is 2012, so the wild, wild west of digital media, that was when I really started to hear the digital pain points of restaurants and hospitality, right? And that was where I knew I could play a little bit more of a role, and I wanted to be in that sandbox.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do with Yelp? How long did you work there?
So I went to the wrong job fair when I had my last year of college, and found myself in communications. I was not a communications major, and I came across the Yelp table and said, I know you guys. I use you for my decision making, where I'm going. And I ended up working there for about 2 years. Started in an account executive role, kind of worked my way up to product launches. And after about 2 years, I was done. It was time for a new adventure, and I had learned what I could and really had my wheels turning about what it meant on the digital hospitality side.
Mm-hmm. Went to the wrong job fair. Sounds like how I got into journalism. So let's talk about restaurant reviews, because we've been living with reviews for a long time. Yep. But they're still pretty important, especially with an average restaurant today. Now, personally, I think they're fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I think restaurant reviews, as a customer, I love it. It helps me pick different restaurants. And this has a really good review. Let's go try it out. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful to me. It's revolutionized the idea of picking a restaurant. Mm-hmm. But could you talk about why is it important to manage this whole process?
So first, let's talk about reviews from the consumer side, right? I don't need 50 friends to tell me where to go eat, because I have Google, I have Yelp, I have TripAdvisor, right? I have Apple Maps ratings now. I can make this decision my way, right? And it's so nice to have that extra content, because the website, it's like asking your mom what she thinks about you, right? It's the best thing ever, right? It's your website. It's going to be all the highs. The reviews are that honest feedback. It's what actually happened. And more importantly, you can see the business owner's engagement. You can see how they're handling this issue, right? And knowing that it's okay to make mistakes, but are they going to make them again? How are these being handled? How are these being addressed? Did the business owner even become aware of this issue, right? You can't make an active change if you're not aware of the problem. And so from the consumer side, they're incredibly impactful, right? On the business owner's side, they can almost be overwhelming. And I've watched this journey from my time at Yelp in 2012 to today, where reviews started as this incredibly emotional, triggering event, right? What do you mean it's 4 stars? I only do 5-star events. To today, where it's, well, what's my takeaway from that? Why did it become 4 from 5? What's the data say? What words are they using? What's the sentiment around that, right? And you can really get granular now on the review data and review analytics to get better, right? To take some feedback and implement it.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I mean, there's a lot to unpack with what you're saying.
Sure.
But so the first thing, one of the things I want to ask is, so you're saying basically that it's okay for a restaurant operator to make a mistake, to have a bad review. That's not necessarily the problem. It's how you address it.
So I'll give you what we say at Marqii internally is you can make a mistake, but make it once, right? You have to learn. You have to get better. And so whether that's going through your review data and seeing that, hey, we're getting some pretty consistent feedback on drinks. Maybe we need to retrain our bartenders, right? Hey, we're getting some feedback that shrimp's coming out too hot, too cold, right? It's a hot dish. It's coming out too cold. Maybe we need to rethink our line situation and how is this coming out, right? There's a lot that you can take away now from reviews when you take away the emotional triggering that comes from them, right? Mm-hmm. And we're seeing some clients just knock it out of the park with how they're handling reviews and having a strategy in place, a management system in place, instead of just letting emails come in from every publisher.
Does this work for chains or independents, or how does that?
It doesn't matter if you're a single location or 3,000 locations, right? The only thing that comes is just exponentially more difficult. But we have a 1 or 2 location client who's getting hundreds of reviews a month across all platforms, right? When you think about not just Google, but Yelp, TripAdvisor, even on the Uber Eats and DoorDash of the world, right? And then you're starting to think as a restaurateur, well, are these equal reviews? If once the food leaves my premises, there are variables that I can't control. I can't help it on who picked up the food. I can't help if there's an extra red light. So is it fair to compare on-premise versus off-premise reviews, right? So at Marqii, we separate. And it's important to kind of look at these things differently, right?
So how does the technology work? Does it just, like, you feed all the data in there, or how does it?
So we work with our publishers. We have APIs into Google, Yelp, Facebook, Meta, right? Apple Maps, where we're pulling in all this review data. And then we're applying a simplicity structure so that you don't need to be a data scientist on the hospitality side to have a takeaway, right? We'll provide sentiment analysis. We'll provide AI review summaries, right? We're going to make it as easy as possible for you to have a takeaway to implement, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about feedback, right? It's about what did we do well? Who can I shout out? Because when we get a great review, let's shout out that employee. Let's make that person feel great for what they did. And when there's a mistake, how can we make sure we don't do that again? Right? How can we get better?
Mm-hmm. So, how important would you say is it for restaurants to get good reviews from a business standpoint?
I mean, when you think about doing a best blank near me search, right? Best burger near me, best pizza near me, because I want something now, and I want the best. When you look at that on Google, they're going to auto filter by 4 stars and up. So if you're 3.7, you're not going to be shown in that best blank near me search. So they're crucial, right? That's how you're going to build your business. But you also want to grow the right way. You want to get organic generated reviews, right? And there's some ways out there that you can gatekeep and this and that, and it's only going to hurt you long term because you're going to get a flood of either bad information, right? Or you're going to upset some publishers and things can come from that, right? So it's best to just let your work speak for itself. The reviews will come. This is consumer behavior now.
Mm-hmm. How do you, are you able to separate out, like sometimes you're just going to get, like you've all read reviews and sometimes they're like, why did you give that person 1 star or something along those lines? Some people just get really upset over something really small or
Yep.
something that has nothing to do with, it just might have been a bad day. Bad days happen.
We've all had them.
We've all had them. Or you might have a bad day, something else happened,
Yep.
something out of the restaurant's control. Like, how do you filter along for that stuff?
So a couple ways, right? Just the generic, the sample sizing of things. So if you have 1,000 reviews and you're at 4.3, 4.4, and you get a 1 star, you can't let that eat you, right? Yes, it's not what you want to see, but you have a sample size that's protecting you. Your work is speaking for itself, right? The other thing we're doing, though, is we're also implementing sentiment analysis, right? So we're able to kind of dissect the words, the tone, what did this person mean, and really get to the bottom of what this review is really trying to tell you, right? We've seen reviews where they say the food was 5 stars, but my engagement with the host stand and the wait staff and service staff was just 1 star, and I can't come back here regardless of how good the fajitas were. Right, and so you can take that away and say, food was great. What do we need to do better? Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you leave a lot of reviews?
I used to. Before I really started with Marqii, I was a big believer in take a penny, leave a penny. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm reading these reviews. They are guiding my decision making, and so if I have a great experience, I want to show what I just went through. Right. If I have a bad experience, I was generally calling the restaurant, giving feedback in person, being a part of that kind of restaurant community. I did have one star review. Not proud of it. I think it was justified. I'll give you the story really quick. It was 2018, January 3rd. It was a Monday. I had a favorite, really strong poke lunch spot near my office in New York in Soho. It was like a 10-minute walk. I was on MealPal. The website said it was open. MealPal said it was open. I'm not joking when I say I walked in 5-6 inches of snow. It was freezing. I was able to order my poke dish, the whole deal. I show up, closed.
Oh, man.
And there was someone in the restaurant. And so I knocked and said, hey, what's going on? I was able to order online. What are we looking at here? Just it wasn't even rude. It was just mean. It was just a mean response. The whole deal was just kind of like, get lost. It was a really crummy experience, right? And it kind of also helped me see what we were doing at Marqii on the hours side of why those hours are so important. I looked on Google, I looked on their website, everything was looking, this is going to be a great lunch experience. But I ended up walking in snow, in the cold, all this just to be kind of greeted rudely when I got there was really tough. I've since deleted the review. It was like a venting in the moment. And when I went back to read it, I was like, well, I don't want this being out there. I'm gonna remove this. So
that's one of the challenges, though, about with reviews. Sometimes they're guided by, again, to the point, like somebody's emotional response. And I mean, look, I use reviews pretty religiously.
Sure.
I will view them, broadly speaking, I will use them as, to me, usually if you go to a restaurant rated like 4.5 stars, whatever, you're more likely going to get a good,
for sure,
a good experience than if you're going to go to a 3-star, for instance. It matters, but sometimes they do get, what prompts the review is just somebody's angry.
Yeah, there's so many factors at play. But again, as a consumer, if you put your consumer hat on, right, it's that sample size we talked about. If we were in Vegas and we were like, let's go off strip for dinner. There was a noodle spot with 4,800 reviews, 4.3. You knew it was going to be incredible noodles, right? There was no way you were going to have a bad experience. Versus you go and you see a place that's, hey, it's 30, 40 reviews, 5 stars. All right, I mean, strong beginning, but I only get so many dining out dollars. Am I risking it on this place? What's the deal? What's the sample size? What town are we in, right? Is this a highly populated town? All of those factors come into play. I joke with one of my co-founders. He's like, I won't go out with one of my friends because all she does is pick 3-star places. Are you kidding me? I go out 2 times a month. I'm not going to a 3-star place. Who's got the time for 3 stars?
Yeah. No, yeah. Like, look, you going out to eat. You're spending your money. You want to have a good time. One time I went to was in San Francisco one time, and I was with family on my wife's side, and we're just like walking around the bay and looking for a place to eat, and for some reason we ended up going to this restaurant, and we're like, let's just go here. We can't think of anything. Yeah. And then we looked at the review as soon as we got in there. We didn't look at it until after we actually went there.
Cold.
And it was 2 stars. And we're like, uh-oh. And it was, at that point, it was sort of like, it was just like, we've made the decision. We're just going to go forward with it. And guess what? It was a terrible decision. It was awful. Like, why did we do this? It was like,
the people had spoken.
Like we could have gone to In-N-Out. Like, it was just like, it was literally a block away. And we could have gone to In-N-Out or something like that.
Yeah.
So, like, it's, and I don't know why I just told you that story, but I did.
Well, because because food and hospitality, it's personal, right? You took time and dollars to experience something. And expectations were set, right? Like, and that's really where reviews come from, is expectation management. Hey, I expected this poke place that I've gone to dozens of times to be open. We had a social contract. You said you're open on Google. You said you're open on your website. I placed an online order, which is so difficult to get your money back from. And then I walked in the cold, and our social contract was broke because you were closed, right? That's a painful. I know. Look, at the end of the day, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but like, hey, in that moment, it sucked.
You're hungry. You want some food.
I was hungry. I was cold. I was in the mood for something quick and easy, and it was everything but that, right? And that's where reviews stem from, is expectation management and setting, which is why it's so important. Get your hours listed. Get your photos. Get your menus, right? Have you really ever gone out to a new restaurant and not maybe scrolled the menu beforehand just to see? Right? That's all part of that customer journey now that you got to have.
Yeah. But doesn't it kind of results in a little bit of selection bias, right? Because it's just somebody with a bad, or consequently, you just got somebody they had a really good time. And,
I mean, I think it's rare to say, hey, I'm going to read one review. Decision over, right? You're reading 3, 4, or 5. I specifically, my wife and I kind of have this really clear-cut style now where we're going to read 5. I want them all in the last month or 2. I'm going to read a 5-star, a 1-star, and everything in between. I want to see a response, right? And then, because for us, we've got 2 young kids to leave the house. There's $100 to walk out the door, right? Just to walk out the door costs $100. And then I'm going to spend another 100 and plus at this restaurant, bar, wine, whatever we're doing. It's got to be great, right? I get one of these a month.
Yeah, that's actually true. Walking out the door with kids is just, you're going to spend a lot of money just like walking out the door, and you're going to spend a lot of time, all that other stuff. So, is there do you have some strategies? Like if I'm a independent restaurant owner, right? What should I do to ensure that I'm getting better reviews? Because let's face it, it's like if you look at chains versus independents, for the most part, there is probably a rating bias against chains almost all the time.
Well, it's like Seinfeld, right? He's going to get a laugh no matter what he says. Yeah. Right?
Even if it's not funny.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. But so there's a chain. So for independent restaurants, this really matters. And good reviews can be the difference between. And it might be a survival thing. Sure. What is your do you have some tips or strategies for operators to ensure that they are winning this game or doing the right stuff?
Look, it's hard to say winning the game, right? It's never too late to start implementing a strategy. Where there's focus, there's progress, right? So ignoring your historical reviews, saying, I'm not going to look at Google, I'm not going to look at Yelp, I'm not going to look at my Facebook reviews, it's not a winning strategy, right? Because you're ignoring. There might be some really easy, low-hanging fruit. It might be so simple as saying, the bathroom's a mess. You might have 5 just 1-star reviews because the bathroom was gross. That is such an addressable problem, right? And so I think step 1 is just saying, I'm going to provide focus to this. I'm going to see what's going on. And then you're in business for a reason, right? And you're going to create the strategy to go against whatever is happening. You'll be able to address the issue, create a solution, and work with your team to provide hospitality, because that's what you started this for, right? It's because there's a passion for making people feel good and having delicious food and drinks and creating an environment where people want to come back to, right? No one said I want to open up a 2-star restaurant, right? No one's like, I got a dream to open up a 2-star restaurant, right? And so I think step 1 is just saying, hey, let's pay attention to these and come up with a strategy. Right?
Yeah. Cleaning the bathroom is actually pretty simple and something that should be. If your bathroom, it is you're going to have a bad day. You're going to have something's going to go bad in the kitchen or something like that, whatever. But just make sure the stuff is clean out front in the dining room. It's just basic.
Yeah. And I want to be clear. I think running a restaurant, 1 location or 1,000 locations, is incredibly difficult. That's why what we talk about is saying, hey, what can we take off your plate? What can we do to make sure that you are going back and focusing on the pizza toppings, the quality of your ingredients, the cleanliness of your bathroom? What can Marqii take off your plate so you can go back to doing the really, really hard stuff? Because you will be at trade shows, conferences, whatever, and we're meeting someone and say, how many restaurants do you have? Oh, we have just the one. Just the one is not a thing. One is really hard. It doesn't get easier with one, right? And so that's why it's so important when we talk about a review strategy. It's just, how can we make this really emotional, triggering, difficult thing easier so you can go back to doing all of the other hard things involved with running a restaurant?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Running a restaurant is definitely hard. No question about it. It's a ton of work. It's very difficult, and a lot of people have found out lately that they can't. And everybody thinks that they can run a restaurant, and then they start running one, and
it's a difficult business to run. There's so many factors at play, and again, you're bringing in people who, can you get them to repeat? Did you earn their repeat dollars, right? And we have a place near us in Austin, Pete Terry's, that they've earned my repeat dollars. I go there every week, right? And those are hard dollars to earn.
Yeah.
Right?
So now, do you collect data from all of the different review services, and how does it work?
We'll work with Google, Yelp, Facebook, OpenTable, EasyCater, right? And we'll make sure Uber Eats, and so we'll make sure that we have a collective resource and sample size of all of your reviews, and then we'll give you the ability to analyze, jump in, respond directly in our dashboard to a handful of those. Work directly with OpenTable so you can click out and respond directly into their review site, right? And just really being on top of them is what's going to provide you the most success. We're always looking to add more and more review sites, systems, any ways to make it easier for you as the restaurant owner.
What about social media?
Yeah, social media is a tough cookie. We're actually we're working on a few solutions there. It's funny enough, we were announcing our recent tool, suggested review response, and actually in LinkedIn comments, someone was like, hey, I'd love to be one of the customers you speak to. We hopped on the phone with her, and one of her biggest requests was, what can we do on social media? And so our team's been heads down, hard at work, and we're going to be launching a social media tool in the next few months.
Yeah,
it'll be really exciting.
Right. Social's kind of important.
It's important. It was also one of those things where the way that we think about how we work with restaurants is really on a location level, right? And social media really historically has been kind of on that brand level. Yeah. But now, we found that we're the ones controlling the geotags on Instagram, right? Twitter, we're actually seeing from a lot of franchisees, they're getting their own Twitter handles. And so formerly known as Twitter, X. Sorry, Alon.
He's going to come and get you now. You're in trouble.
Well, he's in Austin now too. I don't know.
Oh, no.
And so we want to make sure that you have one place to kind of rule all of that, right? And give you a simple dashboard to go in and handle those updates and changes and posts and everything you need to do. So everything we do is built in mind for hospitality. We are a one-size-fits-one solution, which is what this industry is, right? You can't compare selling burgers and pizza to buying jeans, right? How many jeans do you buy a year? I haven't bought jeans in like 2 years, why these are a little tight. Versus if I'm getting a little red in the face, versus, I eat a chicken burger once a week, right? I eat 3 times a day, sometimes 4.
Yeah, I think, I'll say this, one of the things I believe social media today is, it's funny, because social media, the way we currently think about it, has been around really in earnest for about 10 to 15 years.
Sure, yeah.
And I still think there's so much about it we have just no idea how to handle it. And I think about this certainly on the chain level, because if you think about like Popeyes in 2019, they send out one tweet. By the way, I still call it a tweet. I don't care if Elon Musk has actually listened to the podcast and is going to laser beam me from one of his Starlinks or whatever.
What a way to go, though.
Yeah, that would probably be a way to go. But Popeye sends out one tweet and it goes bananas. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that time and again where social media fuels amazing success, and it can really take away from that. And trying to get a handle on it, even if you're a small operator, is like a single unit, mom and pop shop, whatever, is really, really important in some form or fashion, because it really can force your business to take off overnight. We've seen it time and again. and it can destroy
if
it.
you think back, right, we've talked about the customer journey. And yes, we talked about reviews and menus, but the customer journey can start in multiple places and go along the path, right? For me, I have Instagram folders saved from different cities, countries all over the world that I found. I was just scrolling and I found a dish that someone had posted, shared a story from the restaurant owner, whatever, in my discovery page, everything that I'm going to click and save. And on this last trip to New York to visit my family, my wife and I went to this Korean fusion hand roll bar that I had saved 2 years ago that finally I was like, let's go, right? And I found it on Instagram, checked the reviews on Google, 4.4, they were open, let's go get some hand rolls, right? And it was such a great experience, and it was a picture that I found 2 years ago that I'd been dying to try, right? And like, that's, when you think about social media, you don't have to be this, because you're not going to have that incredible Popeyes experience as a 1 or 2 or 3 location restaurant, but you're going to impact somebody. Someone is going to see it. And if you take a bad photo with shadows, and phones are too good now to take a bad photo, right? And it's gonna impact someone. Someone's gonna save it. I guarantee you, someone will save it, and they're gonna go, right? Yeah. So put out good content.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you want to. It's just I know a lot of operators, well, like people in general, would like to ignore it, but if you're doing anything in the public eye, it's something to pay attention to.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And get a handle on it.
Well, we've been at this now for 7-8 years at Marqii, and just hearing the answers to questions change from Pizza Expo 2017, from National Restaurant Show 2018 to today is wild, right? Hey, what are you doing for menu management? We just put it on our website. What are you doing for social media? My sister's kid in college handles it. To today, where it's like, no, I have someone in-house whose sole focus is social media. I have a system in place to handle menu management and automation and reviews. People have really started to shift towards this, and so let's put some focus there, right, and finish strong.
All right, super. Avi, this was fantastic. Really appreciate you joining me this week on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. And so fun to talk into a microphone.
Growing your business can mean big-time logistical questions like, how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then, drivers who are part of Uber's courier network pick them up from your store and deliver them to your customer's doorstep. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com.